Today we're going to learn how to script an uppercase alphabet with your Faber-Castell Pitt Artist brush pen. We're going to start, as one usually does, with the letter A. We're going to do a thin hairline up, long downstroke with a little curl at the bottom, and a hairline across. Thin upstroke, long downstroke with a little curl, hairline across. For the letter B, we're going to start with a hairline, thick downstroke. For this downstroke, we're going to square off the bottom. No need to add a little curve there. And then you're going to do two right-hand curves. Thin hairline, thick downstroke, two right-hand curves. Now, one thing to remember about this alphabet, just like with the lowercase alphabet, this is one of an infinite number of alphabets. So if you don't like the way that I'm creating this letter, or if you just want to try something different, definitely go for it. You have the building blocks that you've learned in your basic strokes. Up next is the letter C. So for this one, this alphabet, it's just going to be a taller, thinner version of our lowercase letter C. Thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release. Now you can add a really simple flourish to this C to give it a little oomph. It's called the top loop. We show this flourish in our video on flourishes if you want a little recap. Just gives it a little bit of an extra look. Next is the letter D. We're going to start with a thin hairline, long downstroke, square the bottom, and then a big right-hand curve. Now you'll notice for the D and for the B too, they're all a little top heavy. So if we were to drop a line down from here, you can see that it leans over a little bit in the top. That's a stylistic choice. You can always choose to make yours a lot rounder, a little bit more even. You have a ton of possibilities here, so don't get too stuck on making it look exactly the way I make it. Up next is the letter E. You're going to start with a thin hairline and then gradually add. You're going to release a little bit of pressure right here. So if you see this little top part, it starts as a hairline, it gets super thick, and then it thins out just a little, but not enough to become another hairline. So that's the top part of your E. In the bottom part, you're going to start out with a thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release. Now I paused between just to show you, but you don't have to. You can certainly keep it going, whatever works best for your style and your flow. Up next is the letter F. So for the letter F, you're going to start out with a thin hairline. You're going to do a long S shape down, curl it up a little at the bottom, and then do a hairline across. Your thin hairline across, long S shape down, thin hairline across. Up next is the letter G. For the letter G, you're going to do a thin hairline up. You're going to do almost like a little dot and whisker. So you're going to apply pressure, release it, and sweep it up in a hairline. And then you're going to do a long S shape down, curve it in. That's your capital G. For the capital H, you're going to start with a thin hairline. Thick downstroke, you want to keep the pressure nice and consistent. Make sure that bottom is nice and squared off. Then for the other half of the H, you're going to start with a thick downstroke, but then you are going to release some pressure so you get a nice little curl there at the bottom. And then you'll do a thin hairline across. Again, thin hairline, thick downstroke, square the bottom, thick downstroke, release pressure, curl it up a bit, thin hairline to cross. The letter I, you're going to start out with a thin hairline. You're going to do a long S shape down. Thin hairline, long S shape down. So you can see this S shape, it's just really slight. It's really, really subtle. So don't make it too curvy. For the letter J, now the letter J is huge. The letter J is very, very large. So it's going to start with a thin hairline, and you're going to do a downward loop down, sweep up. Again, thin hairline, downward loop, sweep up. The letter K, you're going to start out with a thin hairline. You're going to do a long downstroke. And you're going to do it a little bit of it. You're going to apply a little bit of pressure, but not as much as you would with a downstroke to create this top portion of your letter. And then for the bottom, you're going to do a little backwards S shape. Again, thin hairline, thick downstroke, a little bit of pressure on that top line, thinning it out just a little bit as you get to the base, and then a little backwards S shape. Next is the letter L. So for this letter L, we're going to do our nice little flourish that we learned. You're going to start with a thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release, and sweep out. Again, thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release, and sweep out. Now with the letter L, you definitely want to make sure that you're not just relying on that wrist. You really want to let your elbow and your shoulder do some of the movement there. Otherwise, you're going to lose out on some of the range of motion. Up next is the letter M. So for the letter M, you're going to start with a thin hairline, thick downstroke, your first little hump, and then your second little hump. So you'll notice that I stagger the heights a little bit. Again, that's a stylistic choice. You may choose to do it differently. There is no right way, no wrong way. This is modern calligraphy. The letter N looks very similar. You start with a thin hairline, thick downstroke, and then you're going to do your little hump on that side. Thin hairline, thick downstroke, little hump. For the capital letter O, so now for the lowercase letter O, you start on the right hand side of the shape. But for the capital letter O, you actually start more toward the left. So you're going to start just a little thin, gradually add that pressure, gradually release it, sweep all the way up, curl in and over. Again, gradual add, gradual release, sweep up, curl in and over. I think this is a really fun one, and I hope that you like it too. Next is the capital letter P. You're going to start with a thin hairline, long downstroke, and then a little right hand curve. Again, thin hairline, long downstroke, little right hand curve. Just like with some of our other letters, like our D and our B, I like to keep this a little top heavy, but again, stylistic choice. You may have a totally different one, and that is okay. Up next is the letter Q. So the Q is going to start out like our O, a little bit on the left side of the shape. So you're going to sweep it up just like you did the O, but then the big difference is when you bring it back down, you're going to curl it across. Super fun. And it looks cool too. So it's a win-win, the Q, the capital Q. Next is the R. Start with a thin hairline, thick downstroke. You're going to do a right hand curve, and then you're going to do a small backward S shape down. Again, thin hairline, downstroke, right hand curve, thin hairline. Just like with the P, it's a little bit top heavy, which I think gives it kind of a cool look. For the capital S, you're going to start with a thin hairline. You're going to loop at the top, gradually add, gradually release. Thin hairline, little loop at the top, gradually add, gradually release. If you want a more typographical S, you can do your S shape, just exaggerate it much more. So you'd start with a thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release, sweep up. Again, no right way, no wrong way. Those are just two options. Up next is the letter T. To do the letter T, you're going to start with a thick downstroke with a little curve to it, and then you're going to do a hairline across. Thick downstroke with a little curve, hairline across. Now you do want to give this downward stroke a little bit of an S shape to it, but don't make it too dramatic. For the letter U, you're going to start with a thin hairline, gradually add pressure, gradually release it, gradually add, gradually release. Thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release. Do it again. For the letter V, you're going to do a thin hairline, pull it down, and then sweep it up with another thin hairline. Now, unlike a lot of our letters, we don't need this change down here at the bottom to be gradual because we do want a little bit of a point there. So you don't have to, take great pains to keep that rounded. We do want it to come to a little bit of a point. For the W, it's the same thing. We do want the bottom of the W to come to a bit of a point. So you're going to start with a thin hairline, thick downstroke, thin upstroke, thick downstroke, and then sweep it up. Our letter X, you're going to do a little S curve like this, a little backwards S curve, and then you're going to sweep up with a hairline. Our letter Y, thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release. And then you can do your downward loop. Thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release, downward loop. And finally, our letter Z. This looks a lot like our lowercase letter z. The big difference is that instead of starting at the baseline, we're just going to start just slightly below where we want the top of the letter to be. So you're going to start with a thin hairline, gradually add, gradually release with that little loop, gradually add, gradually release. And that's your uppercase alphabet. We'll go ahead and show you each letter one more time.